Second best of 5 starts on Sequencer between the green Zerg player to the bottom right, Wryza, and our blue Terran player from Spain. No, from Poland, never mind. From Poland, Estatte. This map is huge, I have to agree with that. Usually huge maps are a good thing for Zerg, since the opponent will always take a lot of time in order to get across the map to your own location, which is something a Zerg player usually prefers, because it gives... they are bigger ones, that's right. Because it always gives the Zerg player chance to react in time, so you can just set up a few passive scouts with Zerglings or Overlords, and once you spot your opponent moving towards your base, you will just have a lot of time before they eventually arrive, which means you can play even more reactively. And that's what Zerg players like to do, scouting the opponent, seeing what they do, and then just build the counter to what your opponent is doing. So Wryza, being the veteran of the FSL, playing against the newbie, one of the many newbies of this season. Estatte has just recently joined the FSL. Wryza going into a quick third base, nothing unusual here, has the extractor already working and the spawning pool almost done. Reaper is almost done as well, but will arrive at Wryza's bases only at a point in time when the Queen will already be done, and the first Zerglings as well. So if Wryza does not mess up, this Reaper should actually not get that much damage done. Actually no damage at all. If Wryza responds correctly, no damage should be done by this Reaper. So here it moves. Actually Reaper being a lot quicker than I expected here, due to all of these stairs it can use, so it doesn't really have to walk all the long way, but it can actually get in. And this drone is pretty unprotected. Wryza not reacting, a little bit too late. Wanted to morph this into a spine or spore, but it didn't quite work. So now the Reaper gets in, Queen not yet done, and the Lynx actually come in. Will drive it away, but the Reaper has already gotten all the information it needed. Will probably spot for the third a little bit later on, but does not want to die now, so it retreats completely. Will, like I said, probably walk towards the third a little bit later on and give a good scout to Estatte here. In the meantime, she goes into Hellion production with a starport right behind it. Do we already see... It's now transferring some workers, a little bit oddly here, but it worked out in the end. Probably a misclick one, probably to hit these mineral fields, and unfortunately clicked somewhere here, so the workers were moving over here. We might actually see an armory here a little bit later on, so we because I think that Estatte will go into some sort of Hellbat push here, with the help of the Medivac counter healing. But yeah, an armory is needed for that, and thus far we cannot see any, so maybe no pressure. They actually just wants to go straight into Banshees right after the Hellions, so never mind. So only a light, mild Hellion pressure there with a Banshee follow-up. So Wryza has already seen that that Hellions are on their way, so she should actually expect some sort of Banshee play right behind it. Has a Roachhorn in place, but it's not done yet, and fighting with only Lynx and only one Queen against these Hellions might actually prove to be a lot difficult, a bit problematic there. Oh, even actually she's going for a Raven. Well, that is really interesting there. Something you don't really see that often. Maybe he wants to use the firepower of the auto turrets in order to give her an edge. Right now she's doing quite good, keeping these Hellions alive, killing off a lot of these Zerglings, and as I say that, she lets 2 of them die. 3 in total now, so it seems as if these Zerglings should eventually get this Hellion here. Yeah, Zerglings are a little bit faster, just a teensy bit here, than a Hellion. In the meantime, we have a full wall off there with barracks for Estatte, and she will now use the auto turret in order to clear up these Zerglings here. And has 2 Marines right behind it. Maybe even a little bit of wasteful with the resources there. Wryza not trying to nibble away these rocks over here, but a 3rd base is already in construction and will land just shortly. And that is a point in time where Wryza should actually take a 4th, but that's always difficult to remind yourself of if you have been under so much heavy pressure. You always feel a little bit behind, even if you held off the push quite convincingly, and that often keeps you from expanding straight away. If you had attacked yourself, you would have expanded right behind it, but very often if you get attacked instead, it just makes you a little bit more careful and a little bit conservative. A little bit more conservative the way you actually expand. Which is just, I wouldn't even call it a mistake, but a common behavior. So Estatte knows of the weak point of these this debris here, wants to know when the Lings try to take it out, and this supply depot, and also this little SCV here that lost its way, tell her that the Zerglings are working on it, but the Hellions will be there to roast them to a crisp, while Wryza tries to be a little bit more aggressive with Lings, but there's actually not much she can do. I mean, these barracks... Okay, the SCV got killed during construction. I thought that Estatte had sent down another SCV in order to build it in the meantime, but she has not. Tank is already out as well, so once a tank is parked, and you could actually like park it around here, which would be a perfect place actually, you can cover all of that area and also all of that area here, so that would be really great. Ooh, Estatte has to be careful, these barracks are very low, and now finally Wryza breaks through, found the weak point inside the wall. Don't know if Estatte really have realized that this wall was weak and not really finished, and now she just places the siege tank right on that ramp. No more units getting through, but the Lings get obliterated by the tank shots, also harming some of these poor SCVs that get healed immediately by the medevacs. But yeah, like I said, this tank in a position like here with a full wall, it's fairly difficult to break through them. So Wryza trying to do her best in order to break through somewhere after the first breakthrough, building more and more Lings, and a Baneling nest right behind it, so she might be able to actually Baneling bust the front. In the meantime, we have Estatte producing all the good stuff, getting Stim, and Stim is done right now. Tank is in position, so I think this attack should stop in just a few seconds here. Estatte could also just send her Marines over here in order to defend this more easily. And I don't really see Wryza break through here. Nah, not really. I mean, with Banelings, of course. If she just gets a burst damage on these barracks that will take them down in an instant, she might be able to do something. But with a tank up here and another tank incoming, I don't really see her breaking this without any sort of powerful attack here, and the Lings themselves will not suffice. So, 4th base has been taken by Wryza in the meantime, going into the infestation pits so that she will be able to transition into a hive afterwards, and also builds a spire so that she will be able to build some mutas right behind it. We have the typical marine tank composition for Estatte so far. No turrets whatsoever though, so Wryza might actually be able to deal some tremendous damage there with mutas. No turrets inside the main, no turrets close to the 3rd. Actually, Overlord drops might have also been a nice way in order to get some damage done and walk around the defenses that Wryza set up. But in the meantime, Wryza just changing the layout of the map a little bit. Now finally we'll get through this with the Hydralisks and might now be able to walk in, but there's a lot of Marines and tanks in place. This might not be the best tank siegeman. I mean, the army units could just walk to the left and kill something up there, but Wryza seeks the direct engagement. Ugh, move command there for Wryza. Very unfortunate here. Instead of fighting against the Marines head on, she just spent a lot of time moving around them, while the Marines could just easily use all of their DPS in order to take out the standing forces of Wryza. And Wryza, after having lost all of her army, now needs to replace everything. Frantically builds 26 Zerglings, probably expecting her opponent to move across the map right now. But of course I like this counterattack here, with a lot of Mutalisks trying to make their way into the 3rd base. and even a few SCVs that were not needed at their bases. Now long distance mining over here. But yeah, Wryza just realized, oh shit, there's a big forest headed towards my base. So our best return with all of my Mutalisks and try to fend this off the best I can. Lings morphing into Banelings, but Banelings of course might be a bit problematic to get a good shot with these siege tanks around. Wryza just flies in, tries to focus fire down these siege tanks, losing a lot of her Mutalisks in the process though. A few of these Lings and Banelings run in as well, kill off a small chunk of Marines, but not really significant amount, and now the rest of the Banelings detonate. All the Banelings are gone, only a few Zerglings left. We have a few more Mutalisks, but the Mutalisks were not able to take down the siege tanks, and that might actually a push that Wryza will not be able to, well, just barely maybe. Good move there, getting the tanks with the Lings, and finally fending off that very potent push that Estatte had sent towards her side of the map. But it's not over yet. More units are coming and gathering somewhere in the middle of the map. The Mutas still flying right behind the Medivacs will at least get one and should now return before get taken out. But yeah, okay, Mutalisks just realizes just in time that it's better to move around. Okay, Queen's also making their way across the map. Probably some sort of misclick here. Don't think that that was intentional. I mean, Queens are just so low. Trying to help out the Queens with the Mutas here, but Mutas should never take a direct engagement against Stimp Bio under Medivacs. That's always a bad choice, unless it's like 3 Marines maybe. But as soon as they are like 16, 17, and in this case even more, this is pretty problematic to hold with Mutas alone. And I think we can say impossible as a word here. I mean, the status macro is on point, going into 3, well, almost 3-3 at the 12-minute mark. Wryza still getting a good engagement here, surrounding a lot of these units, bringing most of her Banelings into their target, but the tank still stands, the Marine still stands, more and more Marine forces streaming across the map, and now the Terran force is standing inside the natural base. So that makes it always more difficult for a Zerg player to reinforce, because all of the units that come out of that hatch, or all the units that actually try to gather at that location, will get taken out one by one while they are streaming in. Natural base dies, and there are no standing forces for Wryza whatsoever. I mean, she's trying to get an Ultralisk cavern right behind it, but Ultralisks are very far away. 32 Zerglings in the making, but 32 Zerglings alone will not kill this force, especially not if they are streaming in like we say here. She just needs to gather them somewhere else, making them morph into Banelings, and then hope that at the time when the Banelings finally roll in, not too much damage has been dealt, but I mean, the damage already has been dealt. Estatte moving in will now kill the lair, will even get all of these drones here, while they try to escape. Will now take down all of the important tech buildings. The Ultras cavern might not even finish. And with all the tech being stripped down, no spawning pool anymore, so Wryza is not able to actually produce any units at that point in time. I hope Poison is not here blaming me of killing the hype once more, but this game is done, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, 3 Mutas and 3 Banelings will not stop this army. GG! And Wryza loses the first game while Estatte takes the lead with a 1-0. Ascension to Allure. We have Wryza and Estatte, who's walling off on the high ground. While Wryza sends out her Overlord towards her opponent's position. It's a 2-player map, so both players know where their opponent has to have spawned. Even a drone scout there for Wryza. Wants to make sure that no early shenanigans are headed her way, it seems. But Estatte actually not the 3 Rex Reaper player. Drone makes it inside the base. Gets all the information it wants. And will now terrorize this building SCV a little bit before another SCV comes to help out. And the Reaper is in production. Wow. Wryza just realized that her opponent obviously wants to expand down here, tries to delay the command center for a little bit, but Estatte manages to get it down eventually. This Overlord probably moving towards the right hand side for a later check of a potential third base. This Overlord will probably fly towards the back of the base, and there we see the command pointer, so that she will be able to fly in later on and see what kind of composition is headed her way. In most cases, I think we can expect Estatte to go into bioplay once more, because that's what she's played throughout all of her matches. But of course you always want to make sure, always a bad habit in StarCraft to assume what the opponent might do, although sometimes you don't really have a choice. But most of the time you don't really want to jump to conclusions based on assumptions only. So going for the Hellion opening once more. Same old, same old. While Wryza has actually been on 2 bases for quite some time, Estatte has not checked the potential third over here yet, so she does not know if there is one or not. Lings now run in, might actually get a good surround, since Estatte was not paying attention. And now Wryza will finally take a third a little bit late. So usually you want to have it between 2:30 and 3 minutes, somewhere around that time. But yeah, this is a little bit later. Not awfully late, but still. So this time around we get an armory. So maybe we will see some Hellbat pushes this time around, because these Hellions actually should arrive. Or the remaining... Oh, there's actually only 1 Marine, never mind. But yeah, more Hellions and maybe even a medevac, plus a few Marines, should arrive at the third base location once the armory has finished. Actually a little bit later, so the timing not quite crisp. Everything could have actually lined up a little bit better, but we see what the intention of the push obviously is. So the Overlord scouting the Hellions, but 2 Hellions on themselves does not really mean too much. Actually, with 2 Hellions only, I wouldn't really expect some sort of Hellbat pressure even. And she moves in a little bit earlier, and even with Hellions, so not even morphing them into Hellbats, which is quite interesting here. I mean, being Hellbats, they lose a lot of their mobility here, but of course they do tremendous amounts of damage against Lings. And yeah, I think having them transformed into Hellbats would have helped out tremendously here against this Ling flood. But this way, Wryza does a really good job of... Whoopsie, does a really good job... Why can I... Okay, does a really good job of defending this little push here with the help of the medevacs. And even, yeah, as Hellbats, the Hellions can even get healed by the medevac. So always a good thing to have. So Wryza being tremendously aggressive here, with a lot of Lings flooding across the map. So let's see if she will actually be able to deal some damage. This time around we don't have a complete wall off at the natural base. So yeah, Wryza might actually be able to get a good surround on all of these Hellions if Estatte is not paying attention. Yeah, she might get cut open in... Yeah, she might get caught out in the open. Will probably lose most of her Hellions here. Wow, even letting them stay here, not really moving them around, so it seems as if all of the Hellions actually will be taken down. Not too many Zealots, not too many Zerglings, sorry. Stay alive though, so the economic damage is 0, except for these few SCVs not working there for a few seconds. But yeah, still a nice opener there for Wryza. Has to be careful not to overcommit now. Seems as if she smells some sort of weakness she feels is there after destroying all of these units. But you have to be careful since Hellions build very, very quickly. So even if you destroyed 3 to 6 of them, your opponent can just remake them fairly easily. And like I said, these Hellions can always be transformed into Hellbats, and Hellbats just wreck small forces of Lynx. I mean, even Hellions do that quite well. But Hellbats, I mean, if these Hellions had been Hellbats straight away, they would have just killed this force almost with one shot. So yeah, you have to be really careful with the Lynx against a Terran player that goes into a lot of Hellbats. You can just lose your army so cost inefficiently, it's just crazy. So in the meantime, we have Wryza going into a Baneling Nest and a Spire right behind it, also getting +1 upgrades for melee attack and armor. While Estatte is not really producing that much right now, going a few mines, a few medevacs, and a few barracks right behind it, so it seems as if she does not want to go full mech anyways, but rather just wants to have some beefy units against Zerglings and maybe even Banelings, so that it will be easier for her to deal with those. Well, I think Wryza could actually take a third base over here. She has the money for it. And I think a macro hatch would also work quite nicely. So the army, if you want to say that, is walking towards the third base. There's a lot of units here, and now even finally Banelings. So with Banelings and Lynx, this should be no problem to hold this off. Comes down a little bit to how much he's actually going to lose. Does not really want to send in the Lynx in front. I don't like this engagement one bit, I have to say. I mean, she clears it up since there were so few units, but she lost so many Zerglings in the process. Should have really waited for the Banelings in here, but good catch here with a Widow Mine. Saw that it was down here and walked in the one-ling in order to set it off so that she would be able to clear it off afterwards. But yeah, I think it would have been way better to get in with the Banelings, would have lost way less Zerglings. Of course, you can argue, since now she's only traded minerals against minerals, so it might still be an okayish trade. But yeah, I don't know. I think this could have, with just a few more Hellions or Hellbats in there and a few more Marines, this could have gone completely different there. So, Lynx running across the map, Wryza sees that there's a third base in the process of being taken at the moment, so it seems as if she just wants to tear it down before it can even get up. Some Marines around here. We have a few Marines and mines as well, but this is of course a very squishy force here, very vulnerable. So let's see, even trying to get the mine shot into the Marines does not really get it as well as she would have liked probably, but she's only lost a few Lynx here, setting off one mine. The other is still active though. So now the rest of the army moves in. Wryza realizes that there might be a mine back here, does not want to go in with all the mines being ready. Bam! That was of course the good mine shot there for Estatte. Most of the Banelings actually die before they can connect with the rest of the army. 2 more mines being set up. 1 will actually fire, but also getting 2 of their own SCVs killed, so the trader mine here. But yeah, these Link forces will not suffice in order to deal much more damage to Estatte, and Estatte holds, now having her third secured fairly well, and Wryza just took a 4th base behind it. But like I said, could have easily taken a 5th as well. So Wryza still wanting to do the Ling pressure, maybe with some Mutas right behind it, getting into 2-2, and also the +1 flyer attacks. So let's see if she will actually be able to take out the bigger forces here. But with a heavily fortified position like this, it should be rather difficult here. Might actually be that if Estatte is not paying attention to her army now, she might suffer heavy losses here, and she does. Yeah, that is of course the nightmare of every Terran. You send your army across the map, then you go back to macroing, you're not looking at your army all the way down to your opponent's army, and of course if the opponent's army intercepts yours and you're not too quick with the reaction time, then of course you can just lose a big chunk or almost all of it. And that just turned the tide of this game around, ladies and gentlemen. Estatte not even lifting, oh, just barely, before the Lynx can take out this orbital command over here. Needs to fly it towards the main base in order to repair it easily. So while Wryza just set off a few changelings in order to get more scouting information. So actually Wryza got most of what she wanted to have here. I mean, she's now in a good lead, has 4 bases to the 2 mining by Estatte. Has to be careful not to overcommit here and waste too many army units into the standing defenses of Estatte there. So I think the best thing to do right now would be to not attack anymore, but to rather retreat, tack up even more, waiting for the Ultralisks arrive, and then just come in for the kill. Because Estatte is running very low on minerals. This base is halfway dried and it's totally oversaturated. This base is almost dry. So if Wryza actually manages to contain her opponent for a little bit longer, making sure that all the other expansions are not being taken, I think she should have an easy time winning this series, or winning this map, at least. Ultralisks on the way. Ultralisk Cavern is building. We have a Spire 2, we already have a Hive, so she could even morph the Spire into something else. So, Estatte moving out, using the northern lane here, and Wryza realizes immediately what's up, so retreats completely with all of her units. Do these Banes actually have speed? Yeah, they do, so that's a good thing. But Wryza has to be careful running in. Most of the mines are not being burrowed. So a lot of Banes actually explode into the mines. Now the mines burrow and will probably set up very, very good hits here. Wow, killing off like half of the Banelings and the Lings there. But Estatte realizes, no way I can win this anymore. GG's out, and Wryza ties it up, 1-1. Proxima Station. It's Wryza to the top, and Estatte to the bottom. An SUV building a supply depot. Overlord flying across the map. And a drone on its way to scout the opponent's base. Another drone going to expand on the low ground in order to help with creep towards the opponent's position. And it makes it a bit more difficult to see when the Zerg is actually taking the 3rd base. Drone terrorizing the building SUV, while another SUV is on its way for a scout. Drone seeing everything there is inside the main base. And an SUV prepares to build a command center. Lots of clicking going on. And the orbital command is almost finished when a Reaper responds. Spawning pool done. And a queen in production. Overlords getting into position. And a few Zerglings are being built. Maybe we will see an evolution chamber and some overlords being morphed into drop overlords. But the Reaper is in place, and we'll see Zerglings running across the map, should Wryza decide to do that. Back pocket expansion is getting saturated, and Wryza goes for a third base. So now we know that these overlords are just here for scouting purposes. SCV has seen the base going down, so Estatte knows what's up. Reaper did a little bit of damage with a Reaper mine, but had to retreat afterwards. Wryza flies in, sees there is a back pocket expansion, and sends a few lings out in order to scout the front. Starport in the making for Estatte. And a factory with a reactor right behind it, but just to switch out these buildings once they are both complete. Reaper gets taken out by the lynx. Stim is almost done. So we might see a 16 marine drop once the first two medevacs are out. Actually, we're going to see a marine drop with mine support. Wryza still running around, checking that there is no third base. Right now, does not have a baneling nest yet, so she will not be able to break through this wall, but Estatte does not know this and is afraid of a baneling bust, so she plants down a bunker. First two medevacs are out. I would have liked to take the mine with her, but of course she's afraid of the baneling bust, so she leaves it behind and sends the medevacs out to drop with only 14 marines instead of the typical 16. Combat shield in production, stim is already done, and a third command center being built right behind it. So might have actually been that this overlord did see these medevacs, because Wryza returns with all of her zerglings. And if that was the case, then what was very good map awareness of Wryza here. This overlord actually sees the two medevacs incoming, and Wryza immediately reacts, sends the lynx back into her natural base, but of course the marines can also drop into the third base. Good position there for Estatte. Very difficult for the lynx to get a good surround. Medevacs counter healing, but there's just too many lynx for Estatte to overcome. So she tries to land inside the natural, but there are already too many lynx out, not really watching her drop, so she loses all of the marines that are dropping while trying to do another drop inside the main base, but there are also too many lynx around, and Estatte has to move out, at least not losing the one medevac over here, and this one is also still there, but the overlord has a good watch on it. Estatte in the meantime moving her third command center towards her third base location, and will probably start sealing off that part of the map in just a few minutes. While Wryza is going into Mutalisks and researches the baneling speed. Armory incoming for Estatte. Probably for the tanks she is planning to build later on, or maybe to get a better armor on her medevacs, or more attack power on some Vikings she might want to add later on. But probably for tanks, and also of course for the 2-2 upgrade later on. Army moving forward. Commands burrow. Marines marching forward. We have a lot of banelings morphing, but only right now. So Wryza has to be careful not to move in too quickly. Wryza, of course, Estatte, of course, plans to retreat into her own mines, if possible. Wryza sends in the links first, good move there. Wants to make sure that a lot of these mines already have fired once the banelings come in. Oh, still a good trade there for Estatte, who got a lot of banelings for each marine, and also got a good hit into this mutaflock. There's unfortunately no observer or overseer around, so Wryza will not be able to clean these widow mines for now, and another one will shoot right into these queens, but an instant transfuse will heal them up in no time. More and more units streaming across the map. There's only 2 overlords. Mutas have to be careful not to get a full hit once more, but they do. Maybe even getting another hit by this other widow mine. So seems as if Wryza is having some problems engaging the mines the way she really wants to engage them. But engaging mines is always easier said than done. More medevacs and more troops moving towards Wryza's front. But she has a lot of banelings now, just has to be careful not to move them into a big mine detonation, which again is easier said than done. In the meantime, Estatte just moving more and more mines towards the front, nicely setting off this mine is Wryza with this one Ling, and there we have the big engagement. Ling's running forward, big mine hits might be incoming, but with all the Banes and Lings and Mutas, Wryza actually manages to take out the entire force. And Estatte has to retreat completely. Wryza on the march wants to kill all the retreating units and maybe go for a counterattack if possible. There are again no turrets inside the mineral lines of Estatte here, but there are enough marines around here. Wryza would be better off to retreat for now, maybe fly into the natural expansion. There is at least 1 turret here, but she decides to back off for now with the Mutas. Might just now try to fly into the natural base, has a few Banes and Lings in front of the base, and might even try to attack in, maybe luring back the Marines, but unfortunately these Mutas have been hit quite a lot, so they are not really that strong. The big engagement at the front does also not really take out too many of these Marines, although severely hurting them. And now a lot of these Mutas are just hanging around here. Wryza has to be careful if she just calls back all of her army in order to stop that push. These Mutas might just fly straight across the map above the army units of Estatte there. Unfortunately here... okay, no, did not set it off, so that was a good thing for Wryza here. Could have actually hurt her quite a lot. Estatte pre-splitting like crazy here, does not want to get a full hit with all of these banelings there. But Wryza again getting a good surround on most of these units. Now the mine hits actually come in, but they mostly hit a few units of Wryza, but a lot of units of Estatte as well. The Mutas come in from behind, will try to take out a lot of these medevacs and will actually get one, but now the remaining Marines come in, and the only thing left for Wryza right now are only Queens and Mutalisks. Fortunately for her, there's only a little amount of Marines so far, but she has to be careful, like we said before. You don't want to fight with Mutas only against Stimp Bio under medevacs. Even a small group of Marines can fight very cost efficiently against Mutas, and Mutas cost a lot of resources. 100 gas and 100 minerals, but the 100 gas is what matters. Getting a good angle on these Marines here, finding them and intercepting them while they wanted to retreat into the safety of the third base, but it didn't quite work out. In the meantime, Estatte establishing a 4th base at the gold, while Wryza has already taken one herself at the blue mineral expansion, but she's made a macro hatch here that might actually help her getting a good army lead. She already has one, but she might want to extend it by a little if possible. But yes, I think after a successful push like this, you really want to expand once more, and there goes down the 5th base, also at the gold. So if Wryza holds out for a little bit longer and manages to hold out until the Ultralis Cavern is done, she might actually be able to take this game home. But there's a big, mighty and frightening force heading towards her 5th base. She has a lot of mutas, but there are no lings and no banelings around. Lings are just in the making. Oh, there they are, the banelings running in. But actually the damage output of the Marines is very high, killing off most of the Banes here. Some of the Marines stay alive, but the mutas and the remaining lings, also with the reinforcing lings, should actually be able to take out that force once more. And Estatte again in full retreat. 2-2 upgrades incoming for Wryza now, but 2-2 already finished for Estatte. Estatte always on point with her upgrades in most of her games. So mutas flying around a little bit. With the help of the overseers, they might even be able to clear off widow mines if need be. But here we have another big attack. The banelings run in, but that was what Estatte was hoping for. And now big mine connections into the banes, killing off all of them. And now we have a big chunk of Marines running into the 5th base. The mutas are far away, and the mutas alone again will not suffice against this Marine power here. Taking out the 5th, no problem. The mutas arrive at home, more and more Banes morphing. These Banes are her saving grace, but of course losing the 5th is already a big hit. Now the mutas move in, but they fight alone against a big stim bioball under Marines, so a lot of them get killed. The first Ultralisk gets out, that should actually help tremendously against the bio forces, but the mines also deal a lot of damage against these Mutalisk and the Ultralisk as well. Estatte has to retreat for now, but 3-2 will be finished in in half a minute. And in the meantime, Estatte tries to produce a few Marauders to help out against the Ultralisk. Still have to be careful, Ultralisk are not what they used to be with the 8 armor, and Wryza actually does not even have all of the armor right now. So Stimp Bio, that is actually stutter stepping away from only Ultralisks, can fairly easily kill these Ultralisks. So you don't want to become overeager if you face Ultralisks. Or if you got Ultralisks out. It's not as game-ending as it used to be in Legacy of the Void. And here we see it. Ultralisk fighting against this bio head-on. One dies, the other one dies as well. And the third one goes down as well. And that's 900 minerals and 600 gas down the drain. More and more Banes morphing. Well, there's just a big chunk of Overlords and Overseers somewhere across the map. Okay, 3-2 will be done in some time. Estatte also building some Liberators. Fairly nice splits, but there's just too many Banelings, Calaris, in order to take them all down. But still, Estatte, with great movement, manages to keep alive a small force, while Wryza does not have a standing army at all right now. And this 5th base will go down once more, maybe even some of these drones over here. So Queens not really joining the fight, Lings alone won't do the trick, and it seems Wryza dropping down below 100 supply, more and more Lings streaming in, but they just barely scratch the Marines. And it seems as if this force might break through Wryza's defenses, takes out the 5th once more, will now walk up the ramp, will probably kill this macro hatch, more and more reinforcements streaming in, 3 more Ultralisks on the way, but it still takes some time to build them. The mine is already being set up, and once Estatte actually stands in between the bases so that the reinforcements can never actually join, then this game should be definitely over. The liberation zones getting set up. Natural will die in an instant. The one Ultralisk manages to escape to its brethren, and this is Wryza's last stand. Scanning to get rid of the creep tumors there. Moving into the last remaining mining base. Here comes the army of Wryza. Army gets split and gets loaded up because Estatte knows she doesn't have to fight this army head-on. She did the damage by killing off that base over here. Flies all of her army inside the natural base now. Will unload there quite certainly. Okay, even some Liberators over here. The Lynx alone, again, just won't cut it. And where's the rest of the army? There's one Ultralisk chasing the reinforcements away. But yeah, the Hive is going to die. And now the Ultralisk Cavern as well, probably. Yeah, just running in, killing off the important tech structures. Wryza trying to do her best with the remaining Ultralisk, but realizes this game is lost. GG's out, and Estatte takes a 2-1 lead. Blood Boil is our next map. We have our green Zerg spawning to the top left-hand corner. It's Wryza. And to the bottom right in blue, we have our Terran player, Estatte. Blood Boil. We've talked about this map a little bit yesterday, but for all of you new to the FSL broadcasts, we just highlight the specialties of this map once more. There's a back pocket expansion on Blood Boil, but it only has one geyser, but 2 more mineral fields. So if you want to go for mineral heavy shenanigans, this map is your wet dream come true. But if you decide otherwise, there's also a normal base right in front of your ramp. So if you'd rather go for the usual tactics, you can also still take that one. And then of course, pretty close by air is this gold base down here, which also can be used for all kinds of nice cheese. Maybe even for some Gangnam Terran cheese, where you lift off the command center and land it down here in order to make your mineral income explode in the first few minutes and crush your opponent with heavy amounts of marines early on. More than you could usually build in that amount of time. But Estatte decides to go for the back pocket expansion. I think that's actually a reasonable thing. Bioterran, and we know Estatte is one, does not really need that much gas early on, and even later in the game. So 3 gas are actually kinda sufficient. You usually want to have a 4th one if you want to really go heavy on your upgrades, but if you just produce a lot of Marine Marauder plus Medivacs, not a problem to really keep all of that going with only 3 geysers in place. So Reaper using the nice little Reaper stair over here, getting right inside the main base, moving around, might even actually get a drone kill or 2, but does not really care about that. Sees that the base over here has not been taken, but Wryza opted to go for the standard base. Reaper could also always get out here and then just move in here in order to see what the other natural is doing. And again, we'll just get a nice explosion with a Reaper grenade, but nothing else. So in the meantime, we have 2 barracks and a factory incoming, so maybe we're going to see the good old 2-1-1 build, meaning 2 barracks into 1 factory into 1 starport. And then maybe going bio-heavy. So Wryza actually manages to take the 3rd before the Reaper can deny it, and is now droning heavily in order to build up her economy. So starport goes down, and the reactor goes down as well. So again, we will just see the factory and the starport switch, and then the starport will be able to produce 2 medevacs at once, while the factory might be able to give her the additional mine, and then we will probably see the good old 14 marine drop with the help of a Widow Mine, the build she actually planned to do on the last map, but then unfortunately she got afraid of a potential Baneling bust and decided otherwise. So there's the switch, the Overlord gets taken out. Wryza checks with the Lynx for a third base over here and maybe wants to take out these ice rocks over here. But Estatte already has a supply depot at the location, and we'll see that Wryza is trying to break through these rocks, so she will probably bring something over here in order to defend these rocks. And there we have it. 3 Marines will be able to clear this off fairly easily, if she brings them close enough to the rocks, of course. So, Lynx running up the ramp. There's one unfortunate Marine in front of the ramp who gets killed immediately. In a very awful and grim way. Look at all that blood, my god. But there were always some Lynx. And now we have the drop with the mine and 13 Marines only, since a few Marines got sent back here in order to keep these ice rocks from getting torn down. And fabulous, our Estatte on her European account. Moving forwards into the main base, Wryza is prepared, has a lot of Lynx in place, but of course with the mine it might get a bit tricky here. So let's see how this is actually going to play out. So Marines come out, the mine actually comes out last because it got loaded in last. Or first? No, actually first. Right. So, good mine hit there, but of course most of the Marines die as well, so seems as if Wryza will be able to hold this fairly easily without taking any significant losses. Queen comes over here, might even be able to take out that one medevac. The rest of the army should just stream in a second. No, it does not. Where is it? There are the Lynx finally running in. This is actually dealing way more damage than it should have. Seems as if Wryza was not expecting her opponent to just run around a little bit and drop somewhere else, so unfortunately she missed bringing her Zerglings into a better position. And if you actually have established the 3 bases, I personally really like taking out these ice rocks myself, so it gets way more easy for me to reinforce using this path here. But have a look at the amazing map vision that Wryza has with all of her overlords in position. Also the 1 Ling or the 2 Lings over here at the watchtower. The only watchtower she does not occupy is this one down here, but she doesn't really need it since there are so many overlords all over the map, and good map awareness will probably allow her to spot this drop way ahead of time. So let's see how she's going to prepare, pumping out 12 more drones. So right now she will probably not be able to respond in any way, because she just does not have any larva left. Again, 40 Marines and a mine. No, 40 Marines and a Marauder. That could actually be the title of a new novel. Or a new song. 14 Marines and a Marauder. I think someone should compose a song, a StarCraft song, just out of that one line. So, seems as if Wryza this time around tries to go for something new, roach heavy and the Ravager style, plus some infestors probably. And in the meantime, we have Estatte moving into a totally unprotected back pocket expansion, losing a lot of drones in the process, might even lose all of these queens plus the expansion itself, has to be really careful. Lynx in the meantime streaming inside the 3rd base of Estatte, revenging or avenging their brethren here that had to die over at Wryza's location, but the roaches just pop in time and will drive these forces away. Not much that Estatte can actually do. At the same time, these Lynx still denying this base from going down, but there are a lot of Marines and mines in position, so Wryza will not really be able to deal that much damage anymore. Will eventually lose all of her Lynx if she does not escape right now. But she does, so at least some of them stay alive. We have the dropships coming into the 3rd base location, but the roaches are already in position this time. And Wryza will take out that push, again, fairly easily. No real harm done, even getting a medevac out of all of this. And Estatte now realizes that her medevacs are being attacked and flies them away. So no wall-off so far, fairly interesting. I mean, usually as a Terran you want to wall-off as quickly as possible against a Zerg player. Lynx running across the map probably want to check for either this base location or maybe even trying to run in again through these backdoor rocks. So, Terran units driving away that Overlord. Yeah, the Lynx will just... okay, no, will just return. Never mind. Medivac's coming home. They sure have a story to tell. And Wryza takes a fourth base. Never mind. At the gold. So Lynx running backwards. Pathogen lands in the making. So yeah, seems as if Wryza really wants to fully commit to Roach Ravager and Infestors, fungaling all of the army and then raining biles down on it. And suddenly, all the weaknesses that a Roach Ravager can have against Bio are nullified. But of course, it's, again, easier said than done, hitting all those fungals and then raining down all those biles before the fungals expire. It's not all too hard, but it's not a piece of cake either. And Estatte is moving out with a really scary force here. Having only one tank though, but a lot more Marauders and Marines in the mix. Plus a hell of a lot of medevac. Look at that medevac fleet. That's really insane. So let's see. Moving straight towards the 5th base location, expecting Wryza to have already taken that one. Or did she know before? No, she didn't. But yeah, she knows now. And like I said, was probably assuming one. So the Infestors have... oh, actually they are the Infestors. And they do have enough money for... enough energy for Fungal. So trying to rain down biles on the siege tanks, just barely missing it. And of course, without Fungal, this could actually be really problematic for the Roaches and Ravagers alone to kill them, unless, of course, Estatte stands still to let some biles rain down on her army. We'll probably be able to take out that base over here, while keeping the reinforcements of Wryza back from it. So, okay, more reinforcements by Estatte eventually arrive. The 4th base gets taken down easily. And Wryza is just lacking a few forces. She really needs to make these Infestors work now. The next few Fungals should actually just hit everything on that ramp. But of course, Estatte could just load in and fly straight into the main. So let's see if she does that or not. Unsieges? No, I thought I heard an unsiege, but I did not. So probably just wants to go head on into the fight. This could prove a bit problematic there. She didn't see the Infestors yet. Or hasn't seen these Infestors yet, and like I said, just sending in, well, not the full army, but at least a few of them, trying to divide the attention of her opponent here. Okay, Wryza tries to engage, but there's still a tank and a lot of bio forces here. The biles are raining down. There's a good Fungal there, but at the same time, yeah, Fungal and the Roaches clearing up everything, but at the same time, we still have the Marine drop inside the main base. Might even get the spawning pool if they had focused it down, but now the Lynx come in. The Marines try to do their best to keep them away, but eventually the sheer amount of Lynx just take them out. And at the same time, we have another big force trying to walk through the main entrance. Walking forwards, it's mostly Marines and like only one tank that's not even sieged. There come the Infestors, but they do not have enough energy for a Fungal except for that one there. So the last remaining energy gets used up in order to throw down some infested Terrans. But seems as if the Roach forces are just not strong enough. With 2-2 not finished. And Estatte might just move into the main base. 136 to 90. 78 army supply to 42. And yeah, I mean, with the money biles, it might have worked, but it's difficult to make biles work against the mobility of bio if you don't have Infestors around. Only if your opponent messes up a little bit and does not realize that there are biles actually incoming, and Estatte is doing a great job of always retreating only that chunk of the army that is actually under fire. Sorry for that. Yeah, these won't hit anything. And the Ravagers alone just won't be enough. Wryza waiting for the Banelings to morph, but the damage has already been dealt. I mean, even if Wryza actually managed to kill off these remaining forces, what will be left for her? Tank gets down, but not quite. The rest of the army gets taken out by the stimped marine forces. More army forces of Estatte arrive as we speak. 142 to 62. The only mining base is back here, and it's not even halfway decently saturated. This one is totally oversaturated. The Marines are streaming in. Will now take out key tech buildings within Wryza's base. Yeah, and again, Estatte paying attention, not quite. At least a small little hit against all of these Marines, but more and more Marines stream in, more and more medevacs coming across the map. The blue train of Terran we can see on the minimap, 14 characters produced at a time. GG! And Estatte takes the series 3-1.